Hey beauties, good afternoon to you beautiful people. So there's this lady who was commenting on the phenomenon, or the perceived thought that Marian Hall or Lady Saw aka Marian Hall or Marian Hall aka Lady Saw was coming back into secular dance hall to do secular dance hall again, to kind of show that she is still the queen, the forever queen of dancehall, the original queen of dancehall, because we know that it was eventually given over to Spice. But she said something that is a cause for concern. I saw some people say, "Speak for yourself, lady," when she said that Lady Saw really was not prepped, basically into Christianity, into who Christian people are. I'm paraphrasing, because she said that, you have people who I don't know if she said people who are Christians, and she even named some of the people like Spice, Rihanna, and so on, who they say God, but they live a very secular life, so they do things that are against the teachings and the principles and the standards of the Bible, and they still go to church, and that she was not educated about who Christian people are. But she said a part in it that I think I will agree with, because the reality is that other aspect is not, they would not be constituted a Christian. Just a church goer, somebody who visits a church, and so on, but you wouldn't consider them being a part of the faith, because a solid Christian, a true Christian, does not practice sin. It doesn't mean that he or she will not make mistakes or commit an act of sin or do something that is against the laws and the teachings of God. But when you have that relationship with God, and he's transforming your soul, man, which is a composite of the mind, the will, and the emotions, you're not going to practice sin. You're not, as a matter of fact, you're not going to be comfortable in practicing sin. So you're going to sin less, you're not sinless as in without sin, but you know what I mean, you sin less and less. It mitigates as the days go on, as you draw closer and closer to him in his word, through prayer, through just obeying his word, and allowing the Spirit to guide you. But she said something very profound that I've heard many gurus, scholars, people speak on. She said, if Lady Saw was still in the world and she fell on hard times, they would just, do something where she could get a show and make her money and get back money. She said the Christian, they mean go and mean come. They mean, they're so mean, they mean, and they would never help you. And it is something that I don't think Christian people in general, well, you don't mean every person. So I don't want people to run with every person. You will have the one and few, the one and two who are kind. But the devil has been able to keep the church in general, not God. Listen again. The devil has been able to keep the church poor financially, because one, he doesn't want you to compete with the world systems, with the media. So he's not going to make you promulgate the message of Christ in a dynamic way, or in a, what should I say, in terms of the quantity, in terms of consistently getting it out, where you compete neck and neck with other religions and secular things, or anything that is outside of God. So he keeps the church poor, and one way in which he keeps the church poor is causing church people to be very mean. I have never seen a set of people mean like church people. Cheese and peas. I've even heard people say Jamaican people mean. As a matter of fact, they get angry if you try to seek help from them. Again, I'm not talking everybody, so I don't want somebody to come with a silly comment. If you come with a silly, I'm not even going to look at it. And depending on how the comment is, I either block you or remove the comment. Please don't come with a silly comment. Listen keenly with what I said. I cannot be talking everyone. We're talking the majority. If what I'm saying is not true, then let me tell you something. The world systems would not be promulgating their anti-Christ message far more than the Christ-filled message. The enemy has been able to keep the church poor, and one of the ways in which he has done so is causing a lot of church people to be mean. I've heard church leaders say they can't even depend on church people in terms of throwing tithes and offering, because I don't know what people think. Sometimes when I hear, I'm going to digress, but it's really linking back, as I mentioned, tithe and offering. I hear people criticize pastors and say they're stealing the monies and all of that, which they're in the minor. A small percentage of You probably have those fake pastors who will do that. And I say, life is funny. I heard a pastor said that, I don't know how true it is. I just heard him saying it, that Beyonce was paid $25 million for one show. We're talking 25 million United States dollars. I don't want to calculate that in Jamaica. And I said, my God. So they consider her maybe worth, she put her worth all the way up there, so valuable that she would get $25 million in one show, I heard, one concert. And the poor church people who need the money for pay the pastor, pay the workers, pay the amenities, the utilities, keep the place clean, get new equipment, fix up, maintain the place. Because remember that they're humans too, Remember that just as you keep your house clean and it takes cash to do that, it takes cash to do that with the church. When you go and complain over every minute them have offering for this and offering for that. Sometimes when you see churches have different offering baskets, one, the tithe and the offering is really predominantly for the church, whether it's to pay the pastor, take care of the amenities, utilities, and so on. Then you may find that they have the offering. I think the offering is extended to, maybe parts of it is maybe extended to giving back to the community. I know they will have maybe outreach, programs, so they have to collect separate and apart. So you might have a collection for this, a collection for that. It's not about having a whole heap of collection plate. If you can contribute to Beyonce getting $25 million, if that is true in one concert, I'm sure what the pastor is asking is chicken feed in comparison to that. So you're not looking to see that it is the enemy who is creating this kind of divisiveness for you to think that the pastor is stealing. Why you don't say that about these people who are earning all of that money? When Chris Brown came to Jamaica, it was, $1 million for some tickets. $1 million. But yet the pastor come and say, throw your tithes offering, give a little extra because we want to give back to this, we want to do this, that, and the third. You don't say that? So let me ask a question. Chris Brown can buy the airplane, but not the pastor. So God is going to come down from heaven and promulgate the message in other countries, or if he needs to speak. That's how you view church people, that they must live like animals. They can't live a good life too. So only the secular people must live a good life, not the Christian people, because they're not people. Once you become a Christian, you're no longer a human. You're like a scavenger, because that is what you're saying and not realizing it. But anywho, when the lady had said, let me get back to my message. When the lady had said that if Lady Saw was back out in the world, she would have been okay, because the secular people would have just thrown some concerts and whatever it is, and she would make her money. Church people would have never helped you, and they didn't teach her where that is concerned. And it is the truth. I've heard, let me tell you, so enough church people are coming, they're afraid for that. I'm not afraid. You know what I mean? If you don't want to be my friend, if you don't want to like me, that's fine. That's thank God. Less stress and less crosses in my life. So I'm okay if you don't like me, if you don't care. I'm gonna tell you though, it's the truth. I don't mean bad. Many of you are mean. And let me tell you something. As a pastor preached one time, so if you have sand in your hand and you go like this and squeeze and tight it up, and you flip back out your hand, sometimes just a line of sand leave, if any. But when you hold it like this freely, you have more sand in your hand. I've proven it. The more you give, the more you get. And there is something that the enemy has done where when you see money, you feel it's too good to give to people, or if I give them, I won't have. You cannot outgive God. If all the wealthy people were to pull all their assets and their monies together when they're in their best years of wealth, their poverty stricken in comparison to God. $25 billion in one concert is like a 1 cent to God. You cannot outgive God. So the more you're tight, and have you ever noticed that the more you actually don't give, it doesn't benefit you, you lose more? Either you have to pay it's like some sickness reach or something reach that makes you have to pay out more money. And you say, look, and you're frustrated, check it, because you don't give. You give, God, I'll make you say money will come through the ground. I'm saying that for you to understand that. In other words, you don't know how God will give you the money, but he can give you. He can just make somebody call you and say, I feel led by God to give you. It has happened in real life. A stranger. That God told a stranger to give another stranger some money. So it happens. But it's sad though. It is sad. I've often heard this for years, that non-Christians are kinder than Christians. I've heard it. And I prove it to be true. Anyway, guys, follow me on TikTok. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Share